Good evening, beautiful viewers. It's always good to be back. It's a Thursday, it's 9 p.m. time check, whatever it is. Once you see me here, it's Thursday and we are in the men's lounge. And so last week, we spoke about the male and contraception. And interestingly, only after a few days, we saw that article on BBC talking about some research that's gone into making a pill for the male. I don't know whether the pill will be taken before the action or after the action, whichever way. Once the shoot is gone. I don't know who takes the pill, but when we get there, I'm sure we'll understand what it is for. And the interesting thing about that conversation was the fact that we started talking, You remember Pastor Nyansa was here and DJ Advice, Isaac DeGraft were here. We spoke up, we started talking. It felt nice, talking about how the men were going to help the women. But the surprise thing is, before we ended, these two guys had actually changed their mind. I don't know what happened. They had just totally changed their mind. And they were saying that it looks like the women should still keep taking it. Well, I don't think we have considered that the women are braver than we are, but I'm sure we'll discuss it again and we'll look at, we'll delve more into it because it was quite interesting. But anyway, good to see you guys. It's a Thursday. Thanks to Casapreco, Alomo. You see how I'm vibed up. I won't tell you what I've taken, but it's obvious. I may have tasted something. So thanks a lot to Casapreco, Alomo Bitters for helping us bring up the show. And then also, let me just remind you that ETV is 10 years. And so when it's 10, there's a lot of goodies that we have for you. Come in, call our numbers, get on our social media pages, and put on your adverts. There are so many discounts that you are going to have to enjoy. This week, today, we are going to be discussing power. Okay, so what does power? Power, not Hiwale, no. Talking about power, like being in charge. So what does power mean to a man? I'll take my first break. When I'm back, we'll delve into it. So welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's ETV Ghana. We are in the men's lounge. And I'm going to just go straight ahead and introduce my guests. Today, I have two very handsome gentlemen who are going to help me to discuss today's matter. And to remind you again, we are talking about power. Okay, so what does power mean to a man? Today, I have Dr. Kobby Mensah. He's a lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. Dr. Akwaba. I'm sure today I'll be addressing you by Kobby. We'll put the doctor aside today. We'll do Kobby.
That's
okay.
What we do.
And then I also have Patrick Otieku Boadu, CEO, Spearhead Consult, Master Practitioner, NLP. What's the NLP?
NLP stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming.
Charlie, good to see you. Good to see you.
Okay.
And so these are the men I'll be doing the job with today. And like I said earlier, power, the man. What does power mean to him? And I'm sure we probably would have to start by trying to define power, in that perspective. Men, we are powerful. Yeah. And so maybe I should start with you, Doc.
Okay.
No, Kobby. Yes,
Yeah.
Kobby.
Okay.
Power.
Thanks. All right. No, thanks. Obviously, when we talk about power, one thing that comes to mind is influence. Someone's ability to cause something to happen or cause somebody to actually do what they want to do. So it is that simple that you have the know-how or you have the ability to make sure that what it is that has to be done is done, according to your dictates. So that's simply how I put it.
So as far as it comes across as if you speak and it's final, that is power.
That's correct.
Really?
Yeah.
Patrick.
Yes, sir.
Doctor says once you speak, it's power. Once you are the final authority, it's power.
Yes, but again, what I want to add is that when we say power, we are talking about control. The man wants to be in control, just like somebody who is driving. He wants to be in the driver's seat, and every other person being a passenger. So in the family setting, everybody else must be a passenger, but he must drive the car. And that is why when he's not able to drive, or for some reason he hasn't got the capability or the support to be able to drive, then he has a problem. And therefore, every man wants to be in control, wants to be in charge.
I know you're a reverend. I know you didn't tell me, but I found out. I found out you're a reverend. And so knowing from that, this is a personal one too.
Yes.
And I hear people talk about how powerful the reverend ministers are. So how from that point,
Yes.
would you speak the same for trying to probably put a perspective or define power from the point of being, the light of a reverend minister?
Yes, you see, when we talk of power,
Because you guys I'm told you guys are powerful, or that's different.
well, again, it comes back to the influence and the control, being able to call things, being able to command and let people do what you want them to do. You get what I'm saying? I think that is where we derive the power from. Okay, but again, one of the things we can look at is that we can look at something like expertise. When men are talking about power, they are talking in the area of they having a certain expertise that maybe others don't have. Okay, they are talking about being able to be feared. Okay, being able to be feared. So again, when people are afraid, they must be. People must see them as powerful. People must see them as fearful. Again, reward. So in terms of reward, they need to be able to have enough money, enough resources to be able to reward people around them, and that makes them get influence and that makes them feel powerful. Okay. And I think that the other thing that I can talk about is legitimacy. When it comes to legitimacy, then we are talking about things like position. Okay, so if you go to a certain place, what is the role, what is the position of the person? Because the position gives the person influence. When the person says that every other person, when he has the power to sign checks, he has the power to, change your name or change things, or maybe even fire you from the office. So those bases, okay, helps man to take control of what he wants to do and his environment, basically. Yeah.
So then, in that case, it looks as though, well, let me not assume, but do we assume by virtue of genetics that perhaps power is culturally conferred on us, or is merely an illusion? Like, I mean, it's just being men, and the fact that we feel we are men, we are just deluded by the fact that we feel we just have to be on top. Is it just an illusion to us, or it's some? I don't get it.
Well, I think that it's power itself is a universal aspiration. I mean, everyone.
Not just men.
No, whether a man, a woman, a young person, or baby, power is just an aspiration that everyone want to have. And if you look at it, if you dissect it, as Patrick was saying, you either derive it or it's actually repose in you, or confer on you. And then again, if you look at the structure itself, you can look at it from a vertical or a horizontal, position of the power. Now, the vertical, you're looking at downward, upwards, Now, the downward is always almost like an authority, directing people. The upwards, it's almost like somebody is trying to, accept or trying to influence you, because then the authority is not as direct as the downward one.
Yeah.
If you look at the power in terms of horizontal, then it's about more of persuasion, because then you're talking about minded or like pose, people of a similar caliber. So it's almost like a influence, or almost like a persuasion kind of attempt. So you look at it and think that it's almost a universal. Everybody wants it, but as you said, I think the setup of the world itself, and it can be cultural, religious, it looks as though men had been conferred, and it makes them automatically swing into that mode. So if you look at young, people are like children, to one boy, one girl, and already the boy is assuming some role,
Dominance.
Some dominance, regardless of how old or young they are to the female peer. So I think that there is a setup. I'm not that religious. I don't know how deep I can talk about, but I think that there's a setup naturally, that makes man, sort of demand, and the demand, whether it's a derived or it's a conferred, sort of want to be in that position, I suppose.
So in that case, what then makes a man powerful? Is it social status? Is it money? Is it physical strength or some intellectual, ability or something? I mean, what makes man powerful?
I think that when I say that expertise is one of them. If somebody has more information, he has more knowledge, then that person can derive some kind of power from there. Two, if somebody has legitimacy, in terms of position, he can derive his power from there. So if you look at again the home setting, the man, the scriptures will say the man is the head, or religion will say the man is the head. Once you confer the position on the man assumes, hey, I am the head. So whoever else is in the house, I am the head. Okay, and that is why sometimes there are a lot of challenges. Then we look at things like, again, coercion. Because again, if you look at in prehistoric man and animals, or the male, I'm not talking about man, I'm talking about a male, a male, you realize that if you look at biology, most of the time, the males are a little bit larger, they're a little bit bigger, and they try to, have control of their territory. Okay, so if you look at the animals, some of them are territorial. Why? Because when they are territorial, they have a certain territory, and then the females that are there, they control them, and they control other things, in terms of food and all that. So from that biology, you realize that men have some kind of instinct to take on that power. From there, if we come to over time, and if you look at history, there was a time that when it came to power, we're just looking at manpower. I mean, if you're going to the military, you have to be physically strong or tall or whatever. Then it shifted from there, it came to industrial revolution, where we're talking about industry. Then from there we moved, and then we are now looking at today. If you're going to the military, you're not talking about physical, you're talking about a certain degree of intelligence. Okay, so now it's shifted. We are now talking about having information and all that. So over time, the power bases have shifted. And therefore, if you want to be powerful, you don't have to come and go and do macho and come and stand there and say that I'm powerful. No, you have to use something else, okay? Yeah. Is it technology? Is it knowledge? Is it information? What do you have that makes you powerful? Okay, we said that knowledge is what? Power. Actually, it's not knowledge that is power. Is properly applied knowledge that makes you more powerful. Okay. So men want to get knowledge. So again, that is where the expertise things comes in. So these are some of the ways by which men will express themselves. But I think that culturally and socially and religiously too, we've enforced these beliefs, we've enforced these things, and therefore men want to take on that power, or men want to take on that control.
I'll come back to you, Patrick, but yes. Kobby, so what makes, man powerful? Yeah,
I suppose just like Patrick said, the setup is what has made man powerful. I always say that, the idea that the man is the head of the family, I really feel uncomfortable with that. But right from that beginning, it made that person feels. Because if you take the body stature, for example, what tells you, what shows that once you have a mass body stature, that means that you're more powerful. I don't think that's the issue here. But I suppose that understanding, or that appreciation had gone on for so long, and as a result, had sort of turned into a resource, and as Patrick was talking about resources, the idea or the conception that because you are a man, you are the head, has turned into a resource, and the resource as in knowledge, awareness. So whenever somebody says they are a man, then the awareness that you have to stand tall, or you have to face it, or face the difficulty, is there. And the idea that, if you compare that with a female, the idea that the man is, then they also sort of surround that authority and that what do you call the capacity or the capability to that. So I suppose what makes man powerful is that awareness that they got from the beginning, that cognition that they are, the head of the family. And I think that is what has actually perpetuated over time and transformed into so many other, forms of deriving power. Otherwise, I don't think that, we would say that men seek more than women in terms of knowledge, or men are much more stronger in quote than women. I don't think so, because if you look at someone bearing, having a baby for 9 months, there's nothing as strong as that. You can imagine you have a whole human being in your stomach. Yeah. There's nothing as strong as that, But I think that we've come to that understanding, that conception, that cognition that you're a man, therefore you're powerful. And that is what has actually sustained the status quo overnight. So I think your question as to what makes a man is that cognition, that awareness. And that is what has actually made them. And then the latter, in terms of money and the rest, comes to add. Of course, they come to add. Let's come home. Okay, let's relate this to the home. So
being men, I mean, what power means to men. Look, let's be very honest. In various homes,
Yeah.
are men really in charge?
Well, it depends on how you look at it and the way you're looking at it. When you say in charge, what specifically are you looking at?
Are men more powerful at home?
Some men, yes, may be powerful at home. And when we say power, what do you mean? Because you see, there's a certain tendency for you to look at masculinity as power. Because you see, if a man is loving, if a man is supportive at home, do we say the man is powerful? In our context today. You get what I'm saying? Because if you're not very careful, when a man is very sociable, very loving, very supportive, taking care of the family, taking care of the wife, if you're not very careful, we'll look at that as weakness. But that is not supposed to be. You get what I'm saying? So that is why I want us to look at it. When you say power within that particular setting, what specifically are we looking at? Basically.
I think that just as Patrick is saying, if we flip the coin and use leadership to demonstrate power, and then says, let's itemize, as you said, itemize the things at home. Does the man take leadership in 1? Takes leadership in 2? Takes leadership in 3? And I mean leadership as in being the first to take charge or to take control or to step forward, to the plate. Then, of course, the question is, how many things can we itemize and say men are the ones who take charge?
I'm sure it won't be much.
Yeah.
I think it won't be much.
It won't be much, yeah.
You get it?
Yeah.
So just like Patrick was saying, the things that we actually appreciate or we do domestically, how many of them men, step forward to take? Most of it are women. So are we in charge? It's no.
Well, I'm sure it's a question for everybody else to answer. So, guys, get on our social media pages, obviously, on WhatsApp especially. Tell us who is in charge at home, the man or the woman. 020-2222-054. Send us, let us know. We want to know who is in charge. I mean, who has more power at home? The man. Tell us why you think whether the man or the woman has the power at home. So let's look at power in its entirety. With the positive side of it and the negative side of it. I know there's this statement I've been hearing, power corrupts, but we'll delve into that later. But what I want to know right now is how positive can power be to the man? And again, how negative can it be?
If a man, whatever you want to do in life, if you're looking at you as a survival person or anybody want to survive, first is you need to have the control. Second is relationship, and third are things.
Okay.
So, 1, you need to have control. You need to make sure that, and it all comes from you having the predictability in your life, a certain degree of predictability in your life. Because if a man, or for that matter, whoever, hasn't got that ability to predict what it has to happen in his life, he feels he hasn't got control. So that is one area the man wants to look at. 2, we also want to look at relationship. Relationship, and like Doc said, relationship. Because he knows that relationship will be able to give him influence. Relationship will be able to get him things. Relationship will be able to make him to be able to establish things, to be able to take care of his family, to be able to pay the children's school fees, to be able to do whatever. So he has to be able to link up with some key people who will open doors for him. Again, that's another basis. Then finally, things. You need things. You need a car. You need money. What to do? What? To show off, to feel significant. So that is what men do. So we go out there, we look for money, we look for status, we look for position, we look for all these things to show off, to make people feel that. And again, like we said earlier on, sometimes it doesn't actually reflect as power. It's only what society thinks that is powerful. So when you come with a flashy car, then you are powerful. When you have a certain bank account, we are powerful. But in reality, what is happening deep down in the home, the man may not be available at all. So I think that we need to look at some of these dynamics and look at it. 1, we look at the control bit, and then we look at the relationship bit, and then finally we look at the things that a man will need to use to make him feel.
So in that case, putting all this, branches of what power really would constitute to a man, would you say that power is more positive than negative to a man?
You see, the man can use power to do positive things or can use power to do negative things. Okay, so it depends on the values of the person, depends on the dynamics available, and the man can say that I'm going to use to do this. For instance, a man is resourced, and yet he's not taking care of his children, but he's using the money to take care of other people.
Which other people? I know Patrick.
He uses the money to take care of. Yeah, he uses the money to take care of maybe other girls or whatever out there, or maybe other people. What happens? That he has the power, he has the resources, but he's using negative.
So socially, he's being seen as powerful.
Exactly.
But come home and he's like.
And that is why sometimes a lot of people, men, are hypocrites, because that we show off. We want to be seen.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the church, they see us. We contribute. We do all those things. In the office, we do things. We buy lunch for people and all those things. But in our own home, our wives are suffering. Our children are suffering. We are not paying their school fees. We are not taking them out. We are not making them feel they are part of the family. We are not making them feel happy within their home. And when it happens like that, then we are misusing the resource, and we are misusing the power that we have. Yeah.
So then,
you know, Nana, you know, when I always cite this example that when we're young, I mean, your dad is coming from work, coming home, and you run, and then you do our way to. You understand what it means? Yeah, the child recognizes that you are the powerful, you know, that you have the power to do anything. I mean, the idea that they, you know, open up arms, throw themselves, you know, sometimes they believe that you can catch them. Do you get it? Yeah, the child thinks that he can throw themselves at whatever distance you can catch them. Now, that theory, that concept is actually transferred throughout the ages. The child knows that whatever the situation, you can come to their rescue. When you fail, that's negative power, because it confers on you. The child confers on you authority, confers on you, you know, superiorities, confers on you everything that you can think about. Confidence. Now, immediately you fail, all right, the confidence is zero. And I in my class, sometimes I tell students that, look, if your dad and someone else is contesting for elections, definitely you vote for your dad.
Of course.
The only time you will not vote for your dad, when your dad has actually convinced that he's the most useless person in your life, then you would not, all right? So we have actually been conferred some authority. You know, if you look at the reverse, and now it's happening for women as well. We used to take our mothers for granted. You know why? And I'm not saying for granted as if we don't, but you're at home with your mom. You see the mom every day. You see, so the kind of, you know, what do you call, expectation that you have for your dad, even when your mom is doing it, you don't see, because the woman ends up saying, "Oh, it's your dad." Meanwhile, they are the one buying it. You know, so they naturally confer authority.
Yeah.
You know, Christmas time, certainly your dad is not maybe giving you money to do that. He like, you know, Patrick was saying, spending money outside, you know, on chocho buchos and things like that. And then he says, "I don't have money for Christmas." Your mom somehow gets you the shoes and says, "Oh, your dad did." Do you get it?
Yeah.
So naturally, we end up, you know, getting the praises and then the leadership that we probably do not deserve. But the point is that because the mom knows that if that void, I mean, if you're not able to say, "Oh, your dad actually did this," your confidence level is going to go down in your mom, in your dad, and as a result, you're going to lose the power, you know, because it's being conferred on you, and so for me, when we fail to actually execute, you know, what is being given us, i.e. the authority, the confidence, and all the things that the young person, I mean your child, and your partner actually confers on you. When you feel that, then it means you're getting into your negatives. Then, of course, you start losing grip, and then you start to be afraid, and that's where brute force comes in. You want to demand, by force that you have to respect me. I'm the head of it. You don't have to actually say that. It's supposed to come naturally, you know. But immediately you start doing that, you know that you're losing the grip. Because as I said earlier, at that level, between the man and the woman, it's supposed to be some sort of a persuasion, some sort of influence, because it's a horizontal, power, between the two of you. But when you start exercising vertical power, then it means you've lost it.
Wow. So when you start exercising vertical power, it means you've lost it. If you're just joining us, it's TTV Ghana. We are in the men's lounge. We'll take our second break. When we are back, remember, we are here because of the help from Casapreco at Lomo Bitters. We'll be back shortly. Just joining us, we are still in the lounge. It's the men's lounge, and I'm here with Kobby and Patrick. Patrick is a reverend. He didn't tell me, but I found out. And Kobby, there he knows how to talk. Oh. He can speak a lot of. Kobby, like I said, forgive us, we had a little hitch here, but like I said, Kobby speaks a lot of brofo. You know, he's always talking to the students, so his brofo is what's the word? Impeccable. Anyway, so we're talking about power, and I did ask that. So, how healthy can power be? But you see, there's one thing I've noticed. I realized that it's a bit difficult trying to separate leadership from power.
Yeah.
Because it's almost as though a leader obviously has power. But let's relate it to our homes like we did earlier. But this time around, talk about leadership, the male and the female, and how they are able to use power. I don't see that in the female, even when they are in leadership positions. But the male, when the male is a leader, you see it. I mean, it just tells all over. Why that? I see it as a very huge difference, unless you don't see it. But why is it so?
No, it's there. I mean, and again, it's a social, setup. Because even when the women assume that position, you know what we do? We run them down. We start calling them names.
But they are the leaders. They should have the power.
But again, you see, when a man is not delivering, then he feels that the best way to, be at level with the person or feel superior to the person is to bring the person down. So if you even look at our corporate setting or office setting, where the person is rising, what do? We undermine them. We call them names, and we. Alomushata, she's a wizard. She's a witch.
Yeah.
She's done this. She's maybe. Use her body to go and get a position and all those things. So we demean them, we run them down, and it's all because men wants to assume the power. So we feel that why should it? I mean, the question is that why should the woman be over me? And you see that what we don't understand is that even if we take the home setting and we say that okay, the man is the head, okay, when you come to the office, we still want to play that role that we are the head.
Irrespective of are the leaders being female, yeah.
Exactly, because we assume, when we've been socialized that, hey, the man is the head. Because right from the beginning, what do they do? When they are, the woman will go to the kitchen, they'll buy a doll for the woman, the men, they'll buy toy guns for the men, they'll buy cars for the men. So right from the beginning, we socialize the men to assume that role. So when it happens that there is a woman who is the leader, we can't simply take it. We just cannot, take that role that the person is a woman, and that is why even in a marriage setting, when a woman talks, to a man, and what sometimes happens is that the men are easy to submit to are their mothers. So when a wife begins to talk, the man assumes he's playing the mother role. If you are playing the mother role, you are not my wife. You are playing the mother. And most men resent that. They feel that, look, you are taking on too much role.
Yeah.
So they want to bring you down. So these dynamics, we need to be able to check them. But actually, if the society will understand some of these dynamics and let a woman feel empowered, either socially, economically, whatever, I believe that we need to give them a little bit more room, give them the space for them to deliver and for them to work, because they can do great job. They can do a lot of better assignments and things that men are not able to do. If you look at the childbirth dynamic, how many men can carry baby?
Carry it where?
Carry.
No,
my
carry
lecturer
it where?
said, Professor Awosabo said something. He said that if, assuming we were alternating, and the woman starts, it means that we'll give birth to 3. If the man starts, we'll give birth to 2. When the man starts, the next time the woman will give birth. The next time the man won't do it. The man will feel it's so painful, and they don't go through this period again. Yeah. And the women keep going through it. They keep going through it. They keep going through it. They are stronger.
But Kobby, why do you think, irrespective of leadership roles, the women are not able to exhibit the power like how the men? I mean, Patrick has spoken a lot, but I want to know from you.
Yeah,
why do you think it is so?
I think also is the flack that they think they would receive, just as Patrick was talking about name calling, what do you call alomojata and things, when and because they feel that if they have to exhibit or demonstrate that kind of leadership, then of course they are becoming masculine.
Masculine, yeah.
And I've heard quite a number of students when we were talking, and I said, no, you don't have to actually say, oh, I want to come and cook for you, I want to come and sweep. They said, no, the doc, they would think that you are not a woman. Do you get it? And which means that they are substituting, that leadership or that ability to, control the space into gender. They're sort of replacing the gender and or gendering, roles and things like that. And I think that's largely the issue. How society will perceive them, how society will brand them, and their own, affirmations or their own, beliefs in them, makes them act as though they always have to be subservient to men, and that is challenging. That's why, after years of talking about empowerment, we still have the challenge that the women themselves. And I keep saying that sometimes you're saying the kitchen is not your what do you call your office, but women themselves think that that's the office. A lot of people will say no, but you're supposed to cook. You're supposed to do this. I don't have a problem if I don't have to eat cook food. But a lot of women think that they have to do the cooking. And as a result, we keep perpetuating it. So I think that there are a lot of factors that are actually contributing to, most of which is society. Fact that they are afraid that their fellow women, what their fellow women will say, what the family members will say, and especially when you're in relationship or you are actually married, what your husband's families will tell you or will say about it is what is actually keeping or perpetuating these issues. And of course, as Patrick is saying, religion.
In fact, that's even what I'm going to go to right now. So Patrick, you see, I've been thinking about this whilst you speak, and this is what I notice. So the three main religions are the Christian, the Islamic, and then the tradition. And you'd realize that the supreme being in all these, it's thought to be, conceptualized as a man already. And so that's already a head start for a man. And then again, when we come to creation, considering Christianity again, the first human, man. So, it's beginning to, for me, I feel it's just as though men are already seen as powerful and in that leadership role already. It's probably contributing to the reason why women, irrespective of being a leader or not, can't be seen. They can be the most, but they still can't be seen as the ones that are powerful.
I think from the religious perspective, I think sometimes it's more of establish certain order in the family, a certain order in the home. So much as, for instance, the Bible talks about men loving their wives and wives submitting to their husbands. Because you don't want to create a situation where, again, part of the legitimacy thing that we spoke about earlier on, don't want to create a situation where you have two heads in a particular environment, because when it happens like that, even the offsprings will be affected. It will go up properly. So there should be that order. Even when somebody wants to be aggressive, the other person should be somebody to be able to tone it down and things like that. So there are roles that we play. So even like the examples you gave, the man was created first, the woman came later. And if you look at most religions, the women are always at the end. Even some places, the women sit at the back. Women are not supposed to speak in church and things like that. So when even today, even in some religious circles, when the women seem to be speaking and preaching and things like that, we still want to run them down. And when it comes to position, we don't want to give them some position. And these are very big, denominations that still hold on to some of these things, that a woman is also supposed to be maybe an elder, a woman is also supposed to be maybe a bishop and things like that. And all these things are there. But I think that, we should be able to open this and empower them, because I believe strongly that when you empower a woman, especially if you're a guy, you're a man, it helps you, it supports you, it builds you up. And it helps you. Even there are things that you don't even need to think about.
Our lives.
It's just like delegation. You just delegate to them, and then they'll be able to run a thing for
seriously.
you. Because whilst you go out there, farming and then you doing whatever, chasing money and doing your business and everything, the woman will be there, still economically empowered, socially empowered, academically empowered, whatever. And then the person will be able to be a backbone for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doc, before
you.
you come in, let me take these few comments from our viewers on our pages. And so this is coming from Godwin from Akosombo, Accra Day. And Godwin said, I think power is in the home belongs to the man. If he is able to take full leadership role, keep the family safe, alleviate fear of family breakdown, and provide fully for the home. That is, well, yeah. Godwin, thank you very much for this message. This is also coming from Asantua. Asantua says, women are in control. Men are only in control when it comes to the money issues. Is it true? Well, Asantua, we thank you for your comments. Women are in control. All right, so, Kobby, you were saying something.
I was saying that, you know what Patrick said, it's very true. You see, in homes, and I'm sure it will be good for us to do a research about, in homes where the couple actually looks at power as a parallel, like a shared responsibility, I'm very sure that you will see a very, harmonious in the family. And the man even living longer, because you see, the idea that you are the head of the family makes a lot of people do things that otherwise they would not do. They're looking for everything they feel that they have to pay. And if you look at it, you see a lot of guys are actually under pressure, looking for money for wedding, looking for money to show off to family members, like the ladies, parents, looking for. They're always constantly under pressure of showing proving one ability or capability.
But you are the man.
Other.
What do you expect?
But if you have to see to it that, if you have to conceptualize that relationship as, some kind of even relationship where it's a shared relationship, I am sure that you will find that people will be at ease, in whatever they do, because you're not in a game of showing off or proving that you are the man. And I think that's where we've got to. In terms of orderliness and things, and I definitely share, Patrick's view on that. But I also think that, in a situation where you find evenness, is also an order, because, and that is not to say that when it comes to maybe chop money, you're not going to be first to no, you can, but you are not under any compulsion that. You have to, by all means. You've got to actually, kind of appreciate that perhaps the woman also have some competences that could also, come into the aid, and you will not feel shy to let your wife or your partner, the female, take, the lead in that. But if everything you have to actually feel that you are in control, you are the most powerful, and therefore, then suddenly you're going to die easily.
So, I guess, come in.
I think that one thing I need to add is that when men begin to operate at a level of functional leadership, functional power, because then it's about what has he got, what competencies has my wife got or my partner got, what is he bringing on the table, what can he do better than myself, and I want to let her do that particular thing, and then I'll do something else. But the challenge is, and I think what Doc said earlier on talking about the vertical, is when we go into what we call tribal-oriented dynamics. Tribal means that I'm the head, and I decide how you are going to live your life, and that is where we begin to have negative challenges with power and problems. So I'm the head. I decide what you are going to eat. I decide what you are going to wear. I decide who you are going to be. Then that's where we have a problem. But the moment men begin to move their power to a certain functional level, where they know that, look, this is who I am. I'm not competing with my wife. I'm not competing with anybody else. I am who I am, and I have these capabilities, and I'll be able to deliver this. It changes the dynamics.
That's right.
It changes the dynamics. So we must move from that tribal-oriented, concept and mentality to a functional level where we'll be able to understand and flow with people.
That's very clear. If you're listening to us, we are still on ATV Ghana and in the men's lounge. So when we are back, we're going to go on the next break. But when we come back, we're going to talk power, leadership, and politics. We'll see how it plays. Because I've been hearing people talk about how power corrupts absolutely and all that. I'm sure we'll need to talk about that. Okay. But if you're just joining us, like I said earlier, it's still the Men's Lounge. We are men. I mean, once we meet, you know, we don't leave fashion out. You see me in my something. You see, but Patrick, the pen shining like that over there, is it part of fashion? All right, so we have this fashion tip for you this week. Take a look at it. We'll be back after that. All right, so welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's still ETV Ghana. We are in the Men's Lounge, thanks to Kasapreko Alomo Beaters. And so I'm going to open the phone lines now. Feel free to join us. Call us. Tell us what you think about men and power. And so the phone lines are open now. It's 0555 657278. I repeat, 0555 657278. Call us. We'll speak with you. We'll take your views on this. So before we left, I did say that I want us to look at power and politics, and especially that saying that power corrupts. Is it absolutely true?
Yeah, I mean, if we look at the word power itself, actually, you know, connotes politics. You know, that is, that is control of resources and allocation of resources. So immediately you hear power, it means that someone has the stranglehold on resources and how that resource is redistributed. You see, that's why in the home, it's about a man who is determining this, and they say that, you know, if the woman buys a gun, I think there's an account.
Boadu.
You know, so that actually tells you about, you know, resource control, resource distribution, resource allocation, and power, and therefore it's political, you know. And again, if you talk about whether, you know, power corrupts, of course it does, because, you know, Patrick was talking about people having money and then spending it, you know, because they feel resourceful. Yeah. They feel that they have access to the resources. They are direct the resources.
And so they have to misuse it.
Exactly. So it's corrupt, and you know, because if it was the other party who was actually sharing it, I mean, how much are you going to get that will make you spend outside your domain? You don't. So definitely it does.
Would you say power has the tendency of, I mean, bringing on violence? I mean, does it lead to violent tendencies?
Okay. The past 10 years, neuroscience has discovered that we don't only have one brain. We have multiple brains. So we have the head brain, the heart brain, and the gut brain. Now, they all have the role they play. For instance, if you take the heart, the head thinks. If you take the heart its value, it emotes. If you take the gut is courage, it acts. Now, if you notice what is happening in the world today, look at what is happening in America, look at what is happening in Britain, look at what is happening in the Middle East and all that. Look at what is happening in politics in general. It means that something has gone wrong. We focus so much on the head. So everything, headmaster, head quarters, head teacher, head something. We've become head potter. As a people, we focus so much on the head that we've forgotten about the other aspects of we've forgotten about the value part. We've forgotten about the heart part. And actually, the heart is stronger and more powerful than the head. Why do I? Because your heart is the only organ that can pick 10 feet signals 10 feet away from your body. Your head cannot do that. Okay, and your gut is just activity and action, and that's all. And so if you look at it, it means that yes, men have got the power, but we've only used it from the head perspective. We've only used it from the gut perspective, and we are not using the heart. So now I believe that we just have to hand over that power to the people who manage the heart.
Yeah, the women. but are we
a new world order?
But are we? So in that case, are we then saying that? I mean, looking at the leadership demanded of men and the fact that we are seen to be the ones that have power, have men failed?
Well, to the extent that we've only become head-based, then we failed. Okay, so if we can synchronize the three, we can use, you see, you think about something, you have an outcome, but you look at what is important to you, what is important to your wife, what is important to your family, what is important to your nation, what is important to your world. You get what I'm saying? It changes the dynamics, because you can think that, oh, I'm going for war, I'm going to war. But if you sit down and think that, look, if I go for war, who is going to die? Maybe I'm going to kill the other people, but if I go to war, the people who are going to die, they have families, they have whatever. You get what I'm saying? So now the heart begins to work, you know. And then the mobility part, so the identity part of it, which comes from our guts, it's also there to be able to balance up. So I think that we should be able to now look at things not from the head perspective alone,
but from the entirety
but from
of
the
the
entirety.
three senses
Fantastic.
that we have.
Yeah. I mean, to add to Patrick's point, if you look at the world order, I mean, I won't even go back to those days because
Kobby,
I'm not
just
very
give me a second.
Yeah.
I have a call on
Sure.
the line. Good evening, caller. Your name and where you are calling from?
My name is Kumos.
Hi.
I'm grateful for the opportunity to call into the program.
Okay.
I want to speak to the issue of does power corrupt?
Yeah.
Yes, by and large, I have the opinion that power does corrupt, actually. When your virtues and then things that you were brought up with, and all of a sudden you have control and access to so many things that you can decide to do and not to do. Eventually, it can get into your head and one's thinking, and before long, you know that a lot of things is taken for granted, or better still, you lose the part whereby a bit of compassion is attached to humanity. That's what I want to say to it. And then I thank you so much for your show. Your show is really educative and educating a lot of us, actually.
We thank you so much for being part of us this evening, and we appreciate your comments.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. So, Kobby.
Yeah. So I was saying that if you look at the last 400 years,
400 years.
yes.
Okay.
The last 400 years, I mean, break down the society into parts. Let's say from the let's start from nano, meso, micro, macro level, and whatever levels. They have all been managed by, so to speak, men. And ask yourself whether each of these levels we have been at a point where we think it's been best or it's been the best. Perhaps with that measure, we can say we have failed. Because not at the state level, not at the global level, not at even the home level, you know.
Oh, but Patrick is already saying
I
that
mean,
the owners of the house should rule. So we are accepting that we have failed.
Increasingly, we even, I'm sure Patrick would even tell you, we've seen a lot of divorces as well.
Yeah.
Increasingly.
Yeah.
Why is that? So definitely, and increasingly globally, you know, there's wars everywhere, there's confusion everywhere. You know, in a regional or whatever level, it's not good. I mean, we're not talking about development, nose diving. Everybody says
Because we have a head-based society. Everything is about the head.
All they're trying to say is that the powerful ones that we see are not leading. They are just not leading. So we should just leave it
leading from behind.
We are leading from behind, obviously. All right, so this is all that time could permit us to do. It's indeed been very, very educative. We've got a lot of information, but I still think there's more that we can discuss. Get on our various social media pages, put in your comments. I'm sure we'll look at it, and then next week when we are back, I'll bring in some of the comments that we couldn't read. Earlier on, we had some issues with our phone lines, the reason why you couldn't get through. But thanks to our producers, they did much well at the back end. We were able to get the calls. On this note, I'll say a very big thank you to you for being part of us this evening, and also a big thank you to Kasapreko Alomo Bitters. We'll be back next week. Please stay with us all the time. Have a great evening.